Well, hello, first grade. Happy Friday. I am back with Gooseberry Park, and we're going to check in with our friends Kona and Gwendolyn and Stumpy the squirrel, and of course, our new friend Murray the bat. And this chapter is called Time. And if you check the picture out, you can see the moon's out. You can see Gwendolyn and her tank. And remember, Stumpy felt like her babies were probably coming pretty soon. Kona, Gwendolyn whispered into the darkness. It's begun. The dog lifted his large round head from his bed in the corner of the living room. Listen, said Gwendolyn. Kona held himself quite still and listened. There was the ticking of the Swiss clock on the mantel, the hush of warm air from the gas fireplace, the subtle buzz of the plant light above Professor Albert's violets, and something else. Can you feel it in the air, Kona? Gwendolyn shifted her shell around to look at him directly. Kona waited, and as he did, a most powerful feeling came over him. Is it Stumpy? He whispered. Is it time? The old crab stretched her antennae as high as they could reach. She searched the air. I believe it is time, she said with conviction. Oh! Kona jumped up. Oh! He went to the picture window and looked out towards the tops of the trees in Gooseberry Park. Oh, I wish I could be there, he said. He rested his front paws upon the windowsill. Kona dear, said Gwendolyn, you are a most remarkable dog, but I am sorry to say not so remarkable as to climb a tree and assist a squirrel in having babies. I wish I were, Kona said with a sigh. I wish I were that remarkable. She'll be fine, dear, Gwendolyn said reassuringly, fully believing this herself. She's a plucky one. Kona stared out toward the park a while longer. Then he began to pace. He went to the living room, to the dining room, turned right at the sideboard to the study, circled the study, then paced back to the living room exactly the way he'd come. He longed for a good bone to chew, but he'd left his best one in the backyard. He plopped down on the floor and began chewing the leg of the coffee table. Kona! Yelled Gwendolyn. What? The dog jumped so fast that he banged his nose on the table. Oh, thanks, Gwendolyn. Forgot where I was. I don't think there's much damage. The old crab shook her head. Kona, my dear, there are some things in this life we must experience alone. Even having babies? Asked Kona. Even having babies, answered Gwendolyn. Why, when I had my children. Gwendolyn, you have children? Kona's eyes were wide with surprise. Can you see it? The crab smiled. Dear, I had quite a full life in the tropics before I was carried off to be sold in a pet shop. Now that I'm complaining, mind you, I am very devoted to our Professor Albert. Children? Asked Kona. At least 50, answered Gwendolyn. All grown now, and let me tell you, my friend, giving birth is something very private and rather sacred. It was, for me, as private as a prayer. Oh, said Kona, with a solemn look on his face. Together the two gazed out the window in silence at the trees, the stars, the clear bright moon in the sky. Each was full of thoughts about the earth and its heavens, about mothers and their children, around the profound comfort of shelter and sustenance and the familiarity of home. And both sent forth their best, their strongest, their most sustaining thoughts to a little red squirrel who, at the very moment, was happily nursing 2 baby boys and 1 baby girl in the good green fragrance of a pin oak tree. Chapter 6. Children. The following several days were rather heady ones for the little red squirrel, who had become a mother. Never had she received so much attention and praise. Never had she been so talked about. The birth of new babies is important news anywhere, and Gooseberry Park was no exception. Word spread quickly through the trees and burrows and along the riverbank that triplets had been born to the busy red squirrel who collected yogurt cups. Friends Stumpy hadn't seen in months suddenly dropped by, carrying gifts of hard, pungent walnuts or choice bits of ham sandwich or the occasional French fry, which was considered quite a delicacy in park circles. Red, gray, and black squirrels oohed and awed, mourning doves cooed, starlings cackled, and cardinals peeped shyly over the edge of the nest. Even a fat old possum hoisted himself up the tree to pay his respects. A brisk cold wind was blowing now, unusual for early April. The park was strangely quiet as the trees leaned into the chilly breezes. But Stumpy had no worries. She had 3 beautiful babies, a fine collection of treasures, and a wonderful new neighbor who loved bringing her egg rolls. The winds could blow as hard as they might. She was secure. Kona, of course, had been by to visit every day since the baby's arrivals. He still hadn't met Murray since the bat slept most of the day, and of course, Kona hadn't met Stumpy's children yet either. They were much too tiny to be carried down to the ground. But Stumpy herself came down when Kona called her name, and she told him all the wonderful details. She said the little girl loved to sleep, and that she sang in her sleep like a little bird. The 2 baby boy squirrels liked to rest on each other, and one preferred the bottom and one preferred the top. She had named them Top and Bottom. The little girl was called Sparrow for her pretty songs. Their eyes weren't even open yet. Stumpy said it was hard work being a mother to newborns. She couldn't waste time or explore for fun anymore. Whenever she left the nest, it was only to pull a few pine cones from a tree stump or to unearth a few acorns buried nearby. Then she had to hurry back home, for her babies would be waking and crying to be fed. She had never felt so needed. She had never felt so tired. Still, she told Kona, she might have never felt so happy. And Murray visited every night. Kona trotted cheerfully back home and reported to Gwendolyn, word for word, everything Stumpy had told him. Though Gwendolyn had never met Stumpy personally, she regarded the squirrel as an old friend, and she was glad for the good news from Kona, glad for the babies in Gooseberry Park. All right, so these chapters are pretty short. I read you 2. I'm not going to start on the 3rd because it's actually pretty long. Or actually, it's not that long, but it starts a whole new part of the story. Guys, the next chapter is called Ice. What do you think is going to happen? I know that I can tell you that they go on quite a journey together when this ice comes. So if you remember when I previewed the back of the book, it said, they worried about Stumpy and her newborn baby surviving the freezing cold, and can Kona help her? I think we're going to start getting into that here in chapter 7 when we start talking about ice. All right, guys, have a good Friday, and I'll see you soon.